Hello everybody, this is Level Up Lani and welcome to this interesting little talk that we're going to have for today. So, what I'll be talking about in this, I would say, audio is basically a Darkest Dungeon sort of reflection. And when I say a reflection, I mean when I play games or I watch movies, I tend to take the important parts or stuff that really appeals and opens to me, and then I reflect it upon my real life and try and analyze it there. I mean, not just analyze, but also see how something from a game or a movie correlates or relates to my experience. And as you guys pretty well on this channel, I've been playing a lot of games, but the main ones I technically play are Darkest Dungeon 1 and 2, as well as Coffee Talk. But today we're going to be delving more into the topic of Darkest Dungeon 1 and 2. First of all, before I begin, this talk that I'm having is not scripted. So if you're the type of person that doesn't like to hear people stutter, maybe go or has to pause for a couple of minutes, or who sounds socially awkward, this audio may not be for you. Number two, I can talk for the town, which means I can talk for a very long time, so I'm heavily suggesting get a drink, pause this video or this audio, get a drink or a coffee, even like a little bit of lunch if you got the time for it, and sit down, relax, and chill and lay back, because I'm probably going to be talking a lot or for a long period of time on here. I've already got my tea here, which I'm going to take a sip of now. That's going to need to cool down. I didn't put enough sugar in it. Shoot. I'll do that later on. Anything else? Quick update on my life. I got sunburnt. I know it's pretty random, but let me explain. I rarely ever get sunburnt. It has been years since I've gotten sunburnt, but I think it's because the temperatures were so high where I'm from for a continuous number of days that my shoulder decided to get sunburnt. It's not my whole shoulder, it's a small patch. The wound is healing up because I know my remedies. But yeah, pretty shocked that I got a sunburn. And that's pretty much it for now. But let's begin, shall we? Again, this is not scripted. When I do like honest, genuine talks with you or on the audio, you should know by now if you watch my channel, my videos, I don't really script things, because number one, I don't really follow the rules, and number two, it's more awkward for me if I try and read something that is scripted. It'll just come out more awkward than probably what I'm naturally sounding like right now. And plus, I don't really like things that are generally sort of scripted anyway. So, the title of this video is Grieving the Life You Planned. Lessons from Darkest Dungeons, PermaDeath. And the sacrifices, or some of my life milestone sacrifices that I've had to do. So, for those who may be here for the first time, or who may have never played Darkest Dungeon 1 and 2, I'll go and give a little bit of a revamp. A very quick revamp. Basically, with Darkest Dungeon 1 and 2, you put your effort into your character, you build them up, you give them weapons, but if the character dies at any point, even if they're the strongest or you've given them the best stuff, that character dies and never comes back. Now, for what I remember when I was playing this game, I think there are certain opportunities you might be able to get where you can resurrect a character, and that was specifically on Darkest Dungeon 1. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not usually up with the updates and what's changed or what has not changed in these games, up to date wise. But I remember there was like a sort of thing where your characters can get resurrected on an off chance, but if that opportunity does not come up, your characters are like, permadead. You can't get them back. And then you have to rebuild them all over again, which I've experienced multiple times out of irritation and shock. And the way this correlates to my life is not me. This is not me saying that I'm leaving the planet anytime soon. I'm not. But what I've looked at is the way this game's permadeath relates to my life when it comes to a permadeath. Is that as I'm going through life and I'm going through changes, I've had to make certain permadeaths or sacrifice of certain life milestones which I thought I was going to naturally achieve, but they didn't go out the way that I planned. And the Darkest Dungeons characters' permadeaths are very similar to my life milestone PermaDeath, which I've chosen to basically sacrifice and give up permanently. And I would say specifically, as the recording of this video, it's in the terms of friendships and romantic relationships. And as I explained to you guys before on this channel, I am incredibly introverted. Now, introverted does not mean antisocial. Those are two completely different things. But as I've gone through life, trying to be an extrovert, trying to, talk to people, interact with people, try and be the best sort of communicator, I realised that that was a lot of the causes of my mental health. Basically, feeling that I had to be something that I was not, and trying to push myself to be something that I was not. And this happened a lot when I was younger, because I thought, you get brought up in a certain way. You thought you meant to expect to do certain things, and you're taught a certain way. And if you're a person like me, you think, if I follow these rules or I follow these ways, especially in the social relationship world, that somehow you should be able to get opportunity or chance to get the reward for the effort that you put in. So for me, when I was trying to be like an extrovert and get outside and talk to people and interact and create bonds, it's the same way as in Darkest Dungeon, where you got your character and you're building all these weapons and upgrades, and you're upgrading their skills, and you're making sure that they're leveled up and all that. It's very similar like that. And at this point, I feel like me choosing to do a permadeath sacrifice, which means, it doesn't mean I'm never going to talk to a person again. As you can see, I'm talking to you guys right now, but my way of communicating is different. So when I'm talking about being extroverted and being face to face and thinking, oh, I need to be outside talking to people and building relationships and bonds, and if I follow everything to that book, it would all work out. That is the section of my social life or relationship life where there has been a permadeath, a permanent death. And I've had to basically, I did have to basically, this is where I get responsible. I have chosen to sort of sacrifice that life milestone, because what I thought would happen, which was when you create bonds and all that stuff, it generally has not happened. And this has been after I've done a lot of internal work on myself, trying to learn how to the social rules of the world and society, and seeing that everything has changed so much and so far that the old rules of socializing and bonding do not apply to right now. And I think that's the mistake. I'm not pointing any fingers, and I'm not blaming, but I think that's the mistake or the denial that maybe some or most of society is going through. We are playing a very different game in this world or this society of life, using old rules which are either been broken or do not work in the new era or world anymore. And this is not just in terms of socializing. We're technically seeing this with everything else, trying to apply old rules to new changes which won't work because everything has changed, the era has changed. But I'm talking specifically on the social relationship side right now. So for example, if you were born in the 90s and stuff, or let's say 80s, 80, 90s, 60s, you probably would have heard at least once this phrase, the golden rule. Treat people how you want to be treated. That is the most classic rule that, let's say, mature or older generations got when we were younger. Treat people how you want to be treated. And it's not that rule was false or it didn't matter. It actually does still have power today, and it's actually still really good to treat people how you want to be treated. But I think what came as a false, I'm going off the bat here, so sometimes I say certain words which are the wrong definition of, I will go back and recorrect it. But the word dichotomy is coming to mind, so I'm just going to use it here. If I get it wrong, I will correct it when this gets uploaded. So what we've got with the tongue twisted. What we basically got wrong here, even though the word dichotomy is up, I'm going to leave it just in case. What we got wrong here is we were given this false lie, for example, that if we treated everybody how we wanted to be treated, then somehow there would be a guarantee that we would be treated the exact same way, or we would have more opportunities, or we would be able to build more connections, because basically, according to science, humans are social creatures. So that's why that rule was implemented, or we followed that mainly. But now what I'm seeing is, at least from my experience, you apply that rule in today's world, but the era and the world has changed. The rules have changed. And people don't necessarily follow that rule anymore, that just because you're treating them with respect, that they treat you with respect. It's actually quite the opposite. And it doesn't mean that you go out and start being disrespectful to people just because a few bad apples decide not to treat you with the, let's say, dignity that you give them. But the promise that if you just do this one thing, treat people how you want to be treated, and you do it, it will all work out, is also a big fat lie. And I feel like not only am I'm processing my own personal permadeath or sacrifice of trying to get into friendships or relationships, because that's my choice, that's what I'm choosing to do, but I'm also realising the permadeath of different rules and stuff that we were taught as young people or children, and I'm seeing the permadeath of how they don't actually work out or follow to the result that you expected it to work out to be. That sounded very, very wrong even for me. What I'm trying to say is, even if I'm seeing that even the rules that we were taught to follow do not work out the way we expect it to work out, or we think it should work out. Now, I always treat people with dignity and respect in general because that's how I was raised. But I'm seeing also, I've been seeing this since from like, let's say my mid-20s upwards. Sorry about the car going off. It's a police car going off somewhere. If you pick up on it, I apologise. But since my mid-20s upwards, I saw that a lot of the rules that were implemented for people in terms of how to treat each other with dignity and how to interact with each other, they're just verbally said, but they're not actually implemented. They're not taken seriously. And for me, because I started like my self-development stuff, self-development work, internal self-development work at the age of 13, I was definitely that type of person that if I read something important or received a step or a instruction that could benefit me or be extremely helpful, I would try and follow it as closely accurate to the T as possible. Because I think for me, I don't even feel bad for doing that, to be honest, because I believe that's a part of learning. Learning is when you're a beginner. Learning is applying what another person has seemed to have success with and trying to best to implement that and learn that to the T if you want the same result. So when I was like doing my self-development stuff, which I've stopped now, and I was following about how to be the best social person, how to be extroverted, I was following all these rules to the T, including the golden rule. And I still follow the golden rule today, I've not dropped that. But what I'm seeing is that the majority of society will say a certain thing, like treat people how you want to be treated, but the words and the actions are completely the opposite. I'm sure you guys know that phrase where it says actions speak louder than words. And that is very, very true still today. That is not saying that is still a really good truth. Actions speak louder than words. What I'm technically seeing is that a lot of people will parrot the rules on how society should work or how people should work with each other. But then the majority will, in action, will then not do it or do the complete opposite. And then they'll complain about why things are getting worse or why things seem to be breaking up or why relationships and social relationships don't seem to be working out. Is because we only intellectually know it by theory, or I'm not going to say all, but at least some or most of us only know it by intellectual theory, or we just put it in our mind to the back of the subconscious cupboard and we don't actually take it out to implement it when it actually matters. So there is a huge difference between knowledge and knowing then embodiment embodiment and alignment, which creates wisdom. And I can definitely say this from my experience, because while I'm not going to be able to show everybody everything that I did, I know from my experience that everything that I've taken on to my best ability, that when I was given something which I feel could have benefited or helped me, I bodied it, I knew it, and I aligned to it, and I implemented action to try and do it. And as I naively thought before, I thought if I do these things, things would just suddenly work out. But the one thing that we all definitely know, if we're at a certain stage in our lives, is that we can do our best, but we can't control how the other person, situation, society will respond to us doing our best. And we can still do our best, but still technically drop or fail. And not because we weren't good enough or we didn't do enough. Magpie. I love those little guys. And I think that might be a shock to people when you find out that you can do your absolute best, but it still may not work out. And not because you were the failure of that, but because you can't control how the world works, how the world responds to you, and your best might not be enough for the world, which is why I never say do not put your self-worth or codependency on what people think about you or the world. Because, as you can see, it backfires, and if your whole self-worth is codependent on the world and how it sees you, you're going to go crashing down pretty quick. So, as I've sort of self-reflected on myself and worked on myself, I am returning to the version of myself that I was before I felt like I had to follow all these rules and programs, thinking that they would actually create a positive change in my life or actually do something different. And as I said before in my previous Sims video, that means I've gone back to being really, really introverted. Now, I'm going to repeat again. Introverted doesn't mean antisocial. I will never say go antisocial. Introverted just means you're more withdrawn than before. And my ways of communication are very, very different. So, for example, I am very, very good, as you guys probably tell, of sitting in front of a screen or a microphone and chatting all day long or chatting about something important for a very long duration of time. Naturally, it's not forced. I'm having my tea. But if you were to put me in front of a group of people, probably I would do the best I can, but I would probably be incredibly awkward. And second of all, in my personal opinion, I probably wouldn't even really want to be there. Because that's just not me. That's just part of my introvertism, my introverted self. And I would say again, mental health is a very serious thing. I really don't appreciate individuals or people that mock mental health or turn it into a joke. And it's usually the ones that have never been through mental health seriously, that love to mock people that have been through that. And what I'm going to say, the point I'm going to get back to is, I feel like the PermaDeath of trying to be this extroverted person and trying to create friendships, when that was generally not me, or I was pushing myself to be a version of myself that was extroverted and trying to make friends when that was not generally me, I feel by sacrificing that, as is in the game of Darkest Dungeon as well, by permadeathing that or going through permanent death of that phase or that personality, it has actually healed my mental health a lot. It has actually helped me to not feel the side effects of constantly going through that because I was trying to do something which I knew I wasn't naturally capable to do or just didn't want to do. And since then, I would say my life has improved immensely. I actually enjoy my company a lot more. I still enjoy talking to people, if somebody wants to do a friendly small talk conversation, and I can see that they're open-minded and they're open, I'm totally cool with it. And so I feel like feeling like I can communicate when I need to without this expectation I've got to be the most extroverted person or they have to become my friend has actually been the best sort of remedy or solution for me. And it's actually helped me to come back more to myself and be myself in general, which I'm really, really happy about. So I feel like sacrificing or putting a permanent death to my life milestones of friendships or relationships, it was first pretty much a shock. But because it's like you're entering a new field, you're entering a new life, your identity's changing. And I did go through what you would call a psychological shock, or a lot of mental, emotional processing to do. But now it's been a couple of months and I've gotten through it. I feel internally more free. I feel internally more calm. I feel more at peace with myself. And I feel by going through that and actually facing that, it's actually made me more capable of wanting to interact if I want to. Not in the same must be extroverted out there sort of way, but the pressure to need to socialise has completely lessened. Or that silent mental effect of trying to be something you're not by being an extrovert has completely decreased and lessened for myself. And I'm very, very, very grateful for that in general. And it has helped me to refocus on myself, my health, my projects, and the future onwards. And everything, I do admit, everything is sort of uncertain and unexpected right now. So I'm not going to say, oh, I know exactly what the future is going to be. It could change again. But at this point in my life, with everything I just talked about, I feel actually good for making those sacrifices. And if you guys can relate to what I'm saying, even by a little bit, or you guys want to put in your views and points as well, you can put it in the comment box below. But apart from that, that was the topic I really wanted to talk about today. Because playing Darkest Dungeon and going through the permanent deaths on my Darkest Dungeon 1 and 2 characters did spark this topic of interest within me and compel me to want to talk about it in a similar way to my life. And I hope through my talking, my slight rambling, and the accidental intrusion of the magpies in this audio, you were able to glean or get something important from this audio as well. So hey, thank you guys for hearing me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you've got any questions or comments or things you want to share, your views, your life experiences based on this topic, whether you played Darkest Dungeon 1, 2 or not, you can put in the comment box below. But for now guys, I'm going to be off. Take care of yourselves, have a great day, and see you in the next one.